Happy New Year once again to all our listeners at the Moving People podcast. I'm Pierre Fitter, Senior Director of the Hub at BCW India. As we mentioned a couple of days ago, this week we're releasing 3 special episodes that all focus on creativity and its role in public relations. You'll be hearing from 3 global leaders at BCW who are each responsible for driving creativity in our clients' campaigns. Just a couple of days ago, we spoke to Polka Yu, who is Deputy President and Head of Integrated Communications for BCW APAC. Today, we're crossing continents and speaking to Jeremy Baka. He's been a long-time employee at BCW and now wears the hat of our Chief Creative Catalyst based out of Los Angeles. Now, just like Polka, I started by asking Jeremy why it was mostly the big advertising networks that seemed to walk away with the Cannes PR line. Here's what he said.
There are a couple reasons for that, I think. One is, for some reason in our industry, we've gotten into the habit of thinking fast, and lots of ideas and fast ideas are great client service. And so we keep pumping ideas over to the clients that don't have any connection to each other. They don't have any deeper insight or meaning or purpose to them, and they're kind of wandering. And meanwhile, you've got the ad agencies who are sitting there saying, we need more time to the client. This is going to take about a month. Hang on. We've got to do the research. We've got to find the insight. You know, that stuff. You just don't go on Google and say, need cool ideas for Colgate. You know, it takes time. And I think we've gotten in our head that fast service is quality service, and that's not the case. We have to take more time with our creativity to really make sure that it makes sense on a deeper level. And that, by the way, is the only way you really move people, because you become to understand them and you create something that will move them. So that's what I think the problem is.
It's interesting you talk about moving people, right? Because for us, it's not about the awards. It really is about the purpose we have as a communications firm. And why should PR agencies and clients, both of them, demand more creativity from PR teams and not just creative agencies?
Yeah, and you know, it's not even demanding more, it's demanding better. And going back to moving people world, it's not about let's throw more ideas at them. Let's step back and say, how do we really create something that moves people? So as I told a team the other day, let's not send 15 decent ideas over. Let's send one that makes their head pop. And that's what I think we need to do.
What other threats do you see to creativity? And I ask this both from the way agencies think about it, the way agencies are structured to deliver it, but also from the way clients kind of brief agencies and look at agencies for solutions.
One of the things that I worry about in terms of threats to creativity is political polarization, because I'm not starting to, but for a while now, I hear brainstorms and people are saying, well, we can't offend this group and we can't offend that group. And if we do this, and what happens is in the brainstorm the focus becomes, how do we not offend anybody? And the very nature of creativity is going to a place that is uncomfortable. The reason you're uncomfortable is because it's unfamiliar. It is new. It is original. And the brain literally does not like that. Evolutionarily speaking, unfamiliar things could mean I die because I didn't know that saber-toothed tiger was going to attack me because I wasn't familiar with what it did. Okay. Yeah. So uncomfortness or being uncomfortable is the key, or a key, to powerful creative and really new original ideas. And what I'm seeing is a fear to go into any place uncomfortable. And back in the day, we used to begin brainstorms by, I would say, look, we're going to talk about things that may insult you, that may make you feel uncomfortable, that may make you angry, that may make you think it's silly. If you're uncomfortable with any of that, don't be in here. Don't be in here, because we have to go there. We're not being mean. We're not being, we're not doing this on purpose. We need to be able to go anywhere for whatever reason and come out the other end with something original.
I just want to stay on that point a little bit, because you've seen some great campaigns over the past few years that have specifically taken up what you'd call political positions. The one that probably comes to mind more frequently is Colin Kaepernick for Nike. He was a bit of a lightning rod for people on the right wing in the US. But that campaign is memorable. People remember it. People remember Nike for taking a stand over there. Are you seeing more businesses afraid to do that because they feel that they might not be as big as a Nike to stand up to that kind of pressure?
Yeah. Well, it's the same. This is a sad thing. Every time we start doing when we want to share with a client that they really need to go for it in terms of the creativity, we trot out the same usual suspects: the Dove campaign, the Like a Girl campaign, the Kaepernick ad, a Like a Girl, the Fearless Girl. It's the same stuff we trot out over and over and over again. And here's the thing, and I know we often talk about, what it's the client's fault. Is it our fault? Is it's the client's fault? We and clients have to understand something very important, and everybody mistakes this. Brands are not crystal. If you drop them, they don't break, they bounce. And so when Nike does that, yes, people went out and burnt their Nike shoes. They filmed it. The stock dropped. And guess what happened? A month later, people went out and bought new Nike shoes and the stock went back up. Exactly. So stop worrying about brands breaking. All these brand protectors of these legacy brands are so afraid their brand's going to break. It's okay. It's going to bounce. No matter what happens, it'll bounce. So I think we have to start thinking that way, and that'll free us up to do cooler things.
It actually is very relevant to what's happening in India right now as well, because over here you see a lot of brands who are very afraid to take a stand that might offend politically. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that brands that have taken a stand, and sometimes it might not even be a stand, it might just be an innocuous line of copy or a visual that gets hammered by someone who's offended. And then the brands are forced to apologize. Yeah. But I think, what you said about brands not being crystal, that they'll bounce, they don't necessarily break. I think that's something that more brand managers need to remember.
Yeah. People forget, every time we say we need to move people. So where do we go when we say we need to move people? We need to move them passionately, right? We need to make them love things and feel warm and fuzzy inside. Well, hold on a second. What about hate? What about anger? Those are emotions, man. Those are powerful, memorable emotions, yet we avoid them. It's always, we're always creating Hallmark cards in terms of our campaigns. I'm like, can we piss somebody off here, please? It'll be just fine. Because the more you anger people, the more they talk about it, the more you get people on both sides of an issue, the more they're talking about you. So that's what we need to, a little bit more fearlessness, I think.
I actually wanted to come back to that because when we were talking about the Kaepernick campaign, and you mentioned the same 3 campaigns being trotted out every time, whether it's Like a Girl, a Fearless Girl, or what Nike did with Colin Kaepernick. Example of a campaign that really stuck out for you, that really left its mark on you from the past year.
I was actually thinking about that a few days ago. And I went back and I started looking at the past campaigns from this year. And something occurred to me. If they were so great, why do I have to look them up? I wouldn't have had to look up Like a Girl or Fearless Girl or the Kaepernick. I'd have heard about it. It had been talked about. It had been everywhere. And that led me, I just went, wow, that's interesting. I actually have to go back and see what was out there so I can remember. Remember, clients continue to be obsessed about awareness. And here's the thing about awareness. A, it's temporary. B, you're aware of me right now. You're aware of this call, and I am aware of you. So what? Mm-hmm. So what? Yeah. What are you going to remember about me? Let's stop obsessing with awareness and let's start focusing on doing something that people remember. But I did find one that I thought was pretty good, and it was, I don't know if you saw Eat a Swede, and it was done by the Swedish Food Federation to talk about the fact, or to raise awareness, to get people to remember that we need to do something about the world's food production. And so to get people talking about that, the Eat a Swede campaign came out with a campaign talking about eating human flesh. and that this was a really good way to solve our food production problem. And they came out straight-faced. They had a spokesperson. They had a video showing all the statistics and how eating human flesh could save money and we can grow it in a lab. And people were outraged, anger. We just talked about that, but got a lot of people talking about it.
I was going to say, sometimes you don't need the Hallmark card campaign. Sometimes you need to make people think and get them uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, because if you truly believe in something, you don't talk about it like this. You don't, hey, boy, it'd be nice if we could do something about climate change, wouldn't it? You're out, we got 100,000 people marching about it. They're pissed.
You're Dr. King on the steps of the Washington Monument. That's who you are when you're passionate about something. Yeah.
And listen, I keep going back to this. No president, at least in the U.S., presidents are not elected based on facts. It's all emotion. It's all emotion, right? So I can't say enough about emotion. We got to make people feel something. I'd rather people be pissed at me than have them ignore me.
Actually, I want to look ahead right now. We're coming off what I thought was a great town hall, really inspiring just last night with Donna and some of the team, some of her global team from around the world. And we're seeing some really great plans and action, especially on creativity and technology. What is Jeremy Baka doing in 2022 to make BCW the most creative consultancy on the planet?
That I think we all should ask ourselves that question. I like that question, and I agree with you. That town hall kind of made my head pop a little bit, or a lot. And one of the things that I instantly was emailing Donna about was things that culturally, we need to continue doing or to start doing to allow people to be a part of that revolution, the creative revolution we're about to go through in this agency. And what I want to make sure is that as we create these creative hubs, that creativity doesn't become the purview or the job of only a select few.
Yeah.
And Fede says this, it's a great way he frames it up. Everybody's creative, but then there are people who are creatives, people who do it for a living, that have been doing it for years. That's their job description. What I need to make sure is we don't lose the other piece of that equation, that anybody, anywhere, at any level can come up with an idea if you just listen to it. In fact, the REI campaign, when REI closed down on Black Friday, I've read a lot of different stories about that, but several of the stories point to that idea coming from an intern. So, or at least the genesis of it, no pun intended. I think I want to make sure that our culture continues to permeate and creativity flows through everybody's heart and soul, not just the people we hire to be creative.
So we're going to see Jeremy do a lot more of the trainings we've come to love over the past few years.
Yeah, you will. And or one of the trainings I just started doing, I just did it for AstraZeneca, was talking about what happens if you don't create. Okay. Yeah. Where are you heading? Go ahead. Keep going down the path you want. And I'm not disparaging AstraZeneca, because I love that they invited this. They wanted me to do this kind of a presentation to spark their level of being willing to get a little uncomfortable, because I said to them, they want to solve cancer in every form. That's their thing, is to provide a solution to cancer in every form. I said, that you don't do that by just being safe. That's an ambitious goal. So you need ambitious kind of creative. So if you don't have ambitious creative, you're never going to get there. You're just not going to get there. So that's what you're going to start seeing, is what happens if we don't.
Thank you, Jeremy. I think that takes us through the core of the questions that we wanted to ask. And we do have this rapid fire that we always do at the end, and end things on a fun note. keep it a bit light as well. Let's start with the provocative one, Jeremy. Name one client you're dying to take a crack at.
Oh, everybody always says Apple, Nike, blah, blah. I don't want to go, I don't want to work for the successful brands. I want to work for the brands that are broken, that once were successful, like a J.C. Penney's, a Polaroid, a BlackBerry. I want to take somebody that's in that once was a champion and now is lost and wandering and sitting on the bench and about ready to retire. And I want to go, you ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to bring you back. Those are the brands I want to work for.
Put me in, coach, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I like that.
Yeah. If you could declare one creative idea or approach illegal because you've seen it all the time, which one would it be?
That's easy. Celebrities. A celebrity is not an idea. It's a Google search. And I've noticed that we've begun leaning on celebrities as like, this will get news, so slap a celebrity in. No, I judged the Clios 1 year, and all the ideas that we selected as winners, and I'm talking like first, second place, third place, and honorable mention, not one involved a celebrity. Go figure.
Yeah, that does seem to be the lazy answer a lot of times. How do we get awareness, as we were talking about earlier? Let's throw in a celebrity, right? Complete this sentence. Our industry will never be more creative until clients dash and agencies dash.
Yeah, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, I think. Until clients stop thinking that brands are crystal and they're going to break, so they can't do anything because they'll never be able to survive. So they can't do anything even remotely provocative or uncomfortable. And agencies need to stop saying whatever you want, whatever you want. They need to start acting like the professionals they are and start saying, this is what I do. A plumber comes to your house and says, here's how to fix it. You go, I don't want to do it your way. I want to do it my way. You go, okay, well, that's going to cost you more because that's not how I generally do it. B, I can't guarantee my work because I'm doing it your way, not the tried and true way that I know. So, we need to start pushing back a little bit.
That's interesting. That's something to think about, right? Let's put you out a few more years, Jeremy. You're at the end of your career. What would your retirement, what would the article that announces your retirement read like? What would the headline look like?
That's good. So I'll just go even further. Let's say my career's over and I'm in a grave somewhere and there's a tombstone there. It would say he died trying. And Elon Musk said something in a recent interview. He was talking about fear and that he pushes his people to go for it creatively, imaginatively, and in their work, and says, look, I don't care if they fail. You're never going to get in trouble here for failing, but I will take issue with you if you don't try, or if we see you're not trying. And I believe that too, especially when it comes to creativity, because I always hear, and not to labor on about this, but I always hear, or I hear a lot of people saying the client won't, they never would, they it can't, we have too many of this, we don't have enough. I said, well, how do we know? How do we know? How does everybody here know for sure unless we put it in front of a client? And I can do the pitch for you in 1 minute. It'll take 60 seconds. Let's find out. So die trying. That's what it would be.
We were talking earlier about Sweden and memorable campaigns. They have something called the Museum of Failures, which is all about how many times you had to try something before something else succeeded. I think that ties into what you were saying. Try, give it a shot.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in that. And it's cliche to a level of saying, hey, don't be afraid to fail. I know it's a really cliche thing to say because it hurts, it stings, it's embarrassing, you can lose money. And what's interesting is some Cornell research found out this. It is not fear. It is not fear that prevents us from doing something. Fear is the symptom. Fear is the symptom. The cause is uncertainty, because clients are uncertain it will work, which leads to embarrassment, expensive. They look stupid in front of their colleagues. It's that uncertainty. So as we look to present ideas, We have to make it as certain as possible. You don't go in there and say, hey, we're going to do a unicorn, because that freaks them out. What you do is you go in and say, we're going to create a horse and put a horn on it, and it's called a unicorn. So it's also how we frame our ideas that are important.
I love that, and so much to think about. Jeremy, as always, it's great fun chatting with you, but it's also great to get the ideas and continue playing with them in our heads after this conversation. So thank you so much for doing this with us.
Hey, thank all of you guys. This goes right back to what I was talking about, by the way. This podcast. This is the type of thing that we keep pumping out to all of our people, that everybody can understand, appreciate, and strive for creativity. So, I say thank you back to you guys and gals for putting this together, because it's an important part of our culture.
And that's a wrap on our second New Year's special episode of the Moving People podcast. Remember, we're focusing on creativity throughout this week. In a couple of days from now, you'll be tuning into our third and final conversation in this special series. We'll be chatting with Fede Garcia. He recently joined BCW as our Chief Creative Officer at our global headquarters in New York. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Pierre Fitter. You have a good one.